Hello and welcome to the Walk in Love podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Brooke.
And today we're going to give you part of the HOMEJOY e-course completely for free.
You almost missed it.
Well,
because you're being creepy.
Well, you know, that song plays and if someone's watching on YouTube, we just kind of sit here.
Right. So you're trying to give them something creepy to look at.
Wanted to add some pizzazz.
You added something.
Pizzazz.
A word I definitely don't use enough in
That's a solid point. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week. The Walk in Love podcast is a weekly conversation between Brooke and I about emotions, rhythms, parenting, faith, marriage. It's a place where we laugh and sometimes cry as we try to find language to live a more joy-filled life. And if you're looking for a more joy-filled life and tools and language to help you achieve that.
And some pizzazz.
You're in the right place. I don't have my iPad. Died.
What do you do with your hands?
6 seconds ago. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with my hands. Do we have a sponsor? Because I don't have my iPad.
I'm aware.
We do have a sponsor. So the sponsors of podcast episodes are ways you can support the podcast. So
right. It's always us.
It's always us.
Ooh, today's like a pizzazz-filled recap sponsor.
Yeah. So
okay.
Obviously the podcast doesn't exist without your support. So we're super grateful when you do these following things. What order should I go in?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I have an order in my head. Let's see if it matches.
Okay. When you shop a collection.
Yes.
The next launches of t-shirts will be, how many days are in April?
30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. Except February, which sometimes has 29.
Or 28.
Right, which sometimes has 29. I was just assuming it was already 20, which has 28, but sometimes 29. Sorry, okay.
So
30.
30. So you can shop t-shirts. You can buy apparel from us, reminders you can wear. We're going to do that a few different ways moving forward.
Yeah.
The way that we're going to continue to do it is by releasing large collections that give you the most options to buy, like most designs.
Yeah.
Then on the 1st of every month or the 30th of every month, if you're a subscriber on Instagram, you will get...
there you are. I'm like, where are we going with April?
You will get an opportunity to buy the teas of the month. It'll be 2 designs, extremely limited quantity.
Yeah.
But those will be either... Actually, I have the next 4 months planned out. It's one brand new design.
Yeah.
And one like kind of bestseller that hasn't been back in a while.
Yeah.
No, next month it's 2 brand new designs.
Either way, Tea of the Month is coming back because we have the capacity to do so.
Yes, the first of the month.
Which is very exciting.
Very exciting. You get 2 options. I don't think they'll last more than a few days before they sell out.
Yeah.
So collections, Tea of the Month. And then another thing that we're going to do.
The drum roll. This is brand new. This is brand new information, everybody. Pizzazz.
We are going to consistently have the Walk in Love original and a Choose Joy option in our shop at all times. So
what? This is a big deal.
A big deal.
You're
Sorry.
just like saying
Sorry. Yes.
We have not had something in our shop all the time since 2018.
Right.
It's a big deal.
So, and the reason for this is we do get quite a few messages of, I want to buy a shirt for a friend or for a birthday or for an Easter basket or for Valentine's Day or fill in all the different blanks.
Or my friend who's going through something,
I think that shirt would really encourage them. And so we've decided that those 2 in some capacity, we have Choose Joy a few different ways. We have Walk in Love a few different ways.
Yeah.
Will be available in the shop. What we hope to say all the time. Now, there obviously might be moments where they sell out and we have to restock them and that.
Right. But that's like normal sell out, restock vibes.
So these are the ways you can support the podcast. Shop a collection, Teas of the Month. The May Teas of the Month. I don't say this often, but they're fire.
Is it the one I wanted so badly?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the Always in Stock, which should be up. I think we're going to put them up with the Tea of the Month.
Right.
That'll be like when they first become available.
Yeah. So
that's going to happen. You can buy a ticket to the Best Is Yet to Come marriage event on July 9th in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Obviously we did the Christmas extravaganza last year. That was super fun.
Yeah.
I think that is going to look like a church picnic compared to this event.
I'm a church
and that event was
fan.
great. That event was great.
Yeah.
We had a ton of fun. It was awesome. But I think that I think people will walk away from this event, from the best is yet to come, actually feeling that the best is yet to come.
For real,
like with like fire in their belly and like full hearts, ready to like crush marriage and have a plan for the family and like just be ready to communicate and like dream again, because we've definitely been in seasons where we like stop dreaming and are just like, I don't know,
whatever. What does it
like,
matter?
you know, and that those seasons we look back, those are super challenging for us. And so when we can get all fired up to not be in those seasons, that's just like,
or not be in them for long.
that's just such a game changer.
Yeah.
So you can buy a ticket, you can shop from Brooke's beauty counter business, which is linked in the show notes.
Which if you're listening on Monday, the 23rd, question mark, I think maybe would be the 23rd. Right?
24th.
24th? What? Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. The Friends and Family Sale is still happening. It ends the 25th.
Okay.
Which means there's only 2 times a year that the whole website is on sale.
Yep.
And now is one of those times.
Cool.
So
any questions, message easy, pretty clean.
Yeah.
The word details.
Ooh, or help.
Or
right?
help. I think so.
I think help is in there.
I love the automated message stuff. It's so fun for me to create. Okay, so
Lots
shirts,
of ways.
Event, beauty counter.
Yep.
And then like a real
E-courses, because they're coming.
Yes, e-courses. A real big thing that we're going to do soon.
Yeah.
E-courses. We got HOMEJOY, which Brooke has already taught, which everyone loved. That was in it. That's coming back in like just a more, it's not going to be taught live. It's just going to be digestible at any time, any pace you want. And then we have another one called Rhythms Made Simple, where we're going to talk about how to implement and change, update, live rhythmically in a simplified way. So those are all the ways. We really, really appreciate it. And yeah, those are all the sponsors.
It's a lot of ways.
So
how was your week?
Man, I think I was alive this week. I definitely was alive here.
Are you though?
What did I do though?
Are you feeling what I feel every time you ask me, which is I legitimately couldn't tell you. And then by the end of that sentence, I'm like, oh, no, wait.
Here we go.
There we go. I remember now.
So last week, my brother was still here and his family.
Yes, that's what was happening.
I feel like time is flying by right now. We're in a season of lots of projects, and we had visitors essentially back-to-back weeks, which always makes the weeks feel faster. And so my brother was here. They were flying standby. So they left on Friday.
They tried
to leave on Friday. Lindsay got out. She got a ticket. She made it out. Nick and the 3 kids didn't, so I had to go pick them up on Friday night. For those of you who have never flown standby before, let me give you a quick synopsis. You check. Well, back in my day, we would, as a family, want to go on vacation, let's say to Pittsburgh to see my papu.
Okay. What a vacation.
Yeah.
Papu's great.
Papu's great. Papu's amazing. And so we would go to the airport and try to catch the first flight, because we live in California, from LAX to Pittsburgh or maybe to Chicago. We would just try to catch a flight heading east.
Right.
That could eventually land us in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. And standby means people who don't show up for their seats or seats that are not sold, they get offered to other passengers. I was like, I mean, I kind of know what you're saying by standby. Like I've heard that word used, but I don't actually know how it works.
And because my mom's a flight attendant, back in the day, those tickets were essentially free. They've gone up in price a little bit where there are like taxes and things like that. But so we would just wait at the airport because there was no internet. So we couldn't call, like we couldn't check our phone and be like, oh, this plane is oversold.
Oh, wow.
There's no way we're going to make it.
Yeah,
we would just show up, just spend all day in the airport trying to make flights.
That's insane. And you'd split up if needed.
And we would split up when needed. It'd be like, okay, if we get 3 seats, Dad, you're going to take Sam and TJ and you're going to go.
Yeah.
And then I'll stay with the bigger kid. Like it was just always a thing. I didn't realize you could buy tickets for airplanes, I think, until high school. Like I just thought everyone flew this way.
It's just chaos. Everybody's just waiting in the airport.
This is crazy.
You'd think there'd be a better way.
So sidebar. I was coming back from Integrated in Texas. Now I buy almost all of my tickets.
Yeah.
Because
wow, babe.
I know.
You're doing it.
I'm doing it. Not because standby is just tricky. And if like you definitely need to be somewhere at a certain time, at a certain date, you don't want to.
If you have a loose window of when you want to maybe be somewhere, standby is great. But can anybody fly standby, or do you have to have like a airline connection?
I think you have an airline connection, or it has to be like you missed a flight. Now you're on a standby list.
Got it.
Because
it's your fault.
Because it's your fault or something like that. I don't know all the rules, but so I'm sitting in the airport coming back from Texas, and I look down at my phone and I'm like, seat 4E or 4D. That doesn't make sense. There's no way. Like, that's too close to the front. I would never book this ticket. This is too expensive for me.
Yeah.
And so I had enough miles that I have been elevated, baby.
Wow. So standby as a kid. Standby TJ.
Never dreamed that this day would come. I'm a United Premium Silver member. I might put it in my Instagram bio. And so I got upgraded to first class on the second leg of my trip back to Hawaii.
You did?
And
if you're going to get first class, that is the time.
It wasn't a sleeper seat.
I know, but still. I didn't know sleeper seat. Did y'all know this? Have you ever been on a plane where first class literally lays down and turns into beds in these little pods?
That's one of the perks of standby is when we were kids.
That's true, because sometimes standby is the available seat is first class.
We flew first class quite a bit.
Yeah.
Back in the day, because those were the seats that were available. Yeah. So anyways, I get upgraded.
You see that it's happening.
And so it's amazing. It's awesome. I call my mom when I land. I said, Mom, or it was the next day because she was already asleep. I said, Mom, something happened to me on the airplane that has never happened to me before.
Yeah.
In a good way. And she goes, you got upgraded to first class. She knew right away. And then I told my sister and I told my brother, and they were all like
they're all cheering. It was just like, oh man, our family, we never would have believed it.
Anyways.
So great.
So I remember one time because we lived in Southern California until I was in 5th grade. So we would vacation in Hawaii.
Right. And that's common, which blows my mind. I'm like, oh, we're just like driving 3 hours to New Jersey and thinking it's the best thing ever.
I mean,
it actually is pretty great. But I guess some people go all the way to like Carolinas and stuff. But
so I remember being on an airplane trying to fly back home. We were at the end of our vacation, and they called us all up. They called our names on the loudspeaker or the whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Because the people whose seats we had shown up at the last minute, and so we got kicked off the airplane. Granted, sad. We were going to stay in Hawaii, but I remember I think Sam cried. I think I cried. Like we were upset. Like, oh no, we're never going to make it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of standby adventures. I've spent the night in lots of airports.
The thing.
We used to it was pre-screens, so we used to just like I remember. I have so many memories because Chicago's such a big United hub. Mm-hmm. I have so many memories of like me and Nick playing games on the walking escalators, just all day. Like, okay, now let's do this, and then let's do this, and and so Lindsay got home.
Yeah,
Nick and the kids didn't make it. So when I dropped them off to the airport, I had to drive to Target to pick some things up. We needed chips because we were doing family dinner. We were having queso. That's it.
Yep.
What else do we need for Friday night dinner?
We are eating melted cheese.
Yeah. And I'm walking through Target, and I passed by the electronics section, which reminded me of something we were saving for in our Opportune,
Digit now, formerly known as Digit
account. So I go click, 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 and I open up Opportune, and I see the thing that I was saving for is basically full.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite.
Within like $20, $30.
Yeah. Which is one of my favorite things about the app, that you can just it's out of sight, out of mind. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this thing I'm saving for, here's all the money for it. The thing was a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
I'd put the date in as my birthday. It just saved it in earlier. So I call Brooke and I say,
you got a first class flight. That's what I said. No, just kidding. You're suddenly getting on an airplane.
I'm going home. I'm going to Kansas City with Nick. So bought the Nintendo Switch, brought it home, told the girls, everyone's super stoked. Brooke's stoked, got Mario Kart. We're like pumped up to play. The nice thing about the Mario Kart on the Nintendo Switch is you can turn on like an assist driver. So the kids that
there's different levels of settings
would normally be bad. They
weren't terrible.
And so we're playing Nintendo Switch. And then I get a call from Nick that's like, hey, we didn't make it. Come get us. So I go to get him. And
can we just park on Nintendo Switch for a minute.
Sure.
I'm pretty good.
I am actually surprised at how good you were.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just feel like we need to say
acknowledge
it before
it.
we just, breeze right over.
Are you going to become like a Twitch live streamer? Like,
oh, wow.
Should you just Mario Kart?
Only Mario Kart, only Yoshi. I think people would be into it.
I think people would be into it.
Broshi. No.
Is that Brooke and Yoshi?
That's Brooke and Yoshi. But then it sounds like a bro. So that doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, Brooke is good. We'll have to like post some videos or something.
Okay.
So I go to get
the only video game I've ever played. Yeah. Really.
It's so fun.
No matter so fun.
How many times you've played it and how many times you've driven the same course and how many times you like.
I think they kind of get more fun the more you drive.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
And so the girls were pumped. So I go back to pick up Nick and his 3 kids, and I'm like, all right, I got good news for you guys. and then I was like, what time do you have to leave tomorrow to try to catch your flights? Do you want to do the beach or do you want to just like hang
out? Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. What do you think? And I said, well, I did just buy a Nintendo Switch after I picked you up, so we could just play that, which is what we did for like 6 hours straight.
Hours. At one point, so this is I'm going to tie all this in, but we have this tree on our street. We have a lot of trees on our street, which I love.
Wow.
Wow.
Well said.
Wow. Trees on our street. But one of them, or maybe I'm genuinely kind of confused because they're all the same kind of tree. And so I don't understand why only one of them right now is dropping these giant seed pods, but whatever. Okay. I'll have to Google it for another week. Anyway.
Long, skinny seed pods.
Like really long, skinny. If you kind of shake it and it almost rattles a little bit. And so I looked at one on the driveway one day and I thought that kind of looks like a snake. I mean, not really, but kind of. So we gathered 36 of them from the driveway area and we started painting them. We, meaning me. I was just like, I'm just going to paint these for the girls. It's something to do. I'm outside in the garage painting. Because they were kind of shuffling in and out of the house, playing Mario Kart, coming out and helping me. So that's what I did on Saturday. While everybody else was playing video games, I was painting seed pod snakes in the garage. And at one point, no one in my family was out there with me.
Or Nick,
like
no
or
one
even
related
like related nieces and nephews. But I had 4 different neighborhood kids which had joined me at capacities. One who was on her electric bike zooming around the loop finding more seed pods.
Oh wow.
She was in. She's like, I know where there's more on those trees. And I was like, go for it. Bring them back in your basket. I love it. They were all in, but I'll post a story about them. They were fun and cute. And so I just would like to say that I was teaching art to the street youths of our neighborhood while you played video games all day.
And Nick doesn't have a video game system. He said his son asked a bunch. He's like, I think I would get too addicted.
Yeah.
Like
some people just need to.
He's like, I just get so locked in.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, I could tell you didn't watch any of your kids for 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was funny. He hadn't played in years, so he wasn't as good as he used to be.
Right.
And he's kept.
It was a little frustrating.
And like,
because you're like, I really thought I'd be better at this. I remember being better at this.
And we have, because we grew up in the same family with the same parents, we have the same sort of phrases.
Oh yes.
Come on, Mousetis. That's like one that we do. And so now June has started saying, June Mousetis.
I know. I'm like, she's like talking about herself in what, third person? Is that right?
So but my week was really good sweet. Because it's just been a fun addition. So the way we're doing it. And I've actually had people message us like, what do you think about kids in video games? I honestly, like, I grew up playing video games. Me and Nick were reminiscing about getting our Nintendo for the first time. Mm-hmm. My parents were big advocates of not having handheld devices. I just remember that. We never got a Game Boy. We never got the Sega thing. And I think that there's something to be said about that. I think
it's the team versus the individual mentality.
Like, all of us played together. Yeah. So Sunny and June are at first getting frustrated that one was beating the other. And then that changed into celebration of one for the other. Junie won a cup all by herself. I mean, it was like Christmas had come early. She was just so excited. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not an anti-video game for kids type of person. But what we're going to do, and what we've established, which Brooke is going to have another arts and crafts time for, is...
They came in the mail today.
Oh, they did? Mm-hmm. Nice. We bought tokens. So they're going to earn tokens throughout the week, and they can turn in 3 for to play a single cup all the way through. Because we don't
really have... I mean, we've done it like here and there in blips, I'll say. Like if I look at, June's 8. So like in the last 8 years of parenting, we've had blips of like reward systems.
Yep.
But I as much as I think they can help at times, maybe like potty training or I don't know, something like that. But even that, science shows, just teach your kid to go. Anyway, I'm like not all in necessarily. This is a hot take from Brooke. Like,
I like it. I'm here for it.
I'm not all in on like, let's reward our kids to do everything.
Right.
Because I'm like, no, you just got to do stuff in life. What I am into is like, and I don't even know if I'll call it a reward. It's more just like earning screen time related things. Mm-hmm. I am into earning that. Yeah. And being like, if you want to cash this in for iPad or for Nintendo or for an episode, like I'm into it from a screen time perspective. Because that is something that I want to monitor. And I don't necessarily just want it to be like, you just get a default time every day of all this. So,
and that's where the nice thing about Sabbath comes in is like Sabbath sort of that is like, it's like, hey, it's Sabbath. It's a day of rest. If that's how you want to rest, like, let's go for it.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll watch 2 movies and other times they won't watch any.
Yeah. And
it's not always the same.
Yeah. That's just my take on video games. I think that they can be beneficial to the family as a team, especially if it's like not a crazy like graphic or scary video game Mario Kart. Mario Kart is the perfect family game because almost anybody can play it, especially with the settings. And we've all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we've done this week is started watching Lego Masters.
Yes.
That's been fun to do.
That has been fun. So, June was trying to build something this morning. She sits down, literally, boom, she's awake. She's at the table. She's playing Lego. What's my challenge? What's the twist going to be halfway through? And I didn't see last night's episode. Okay. I think maybe the ocean with like a playground. And then she's digging through our giant chaos container of Lego. And she's like, Mom, these aren't sorted at all like the show. I can't find the brick I need. And I'm like, you actually upset? Like, do you want me to solve this problem for you? Are you that into it?
Show with a giant budget.
The show that literally looks like a candy room full of acrylic containers full of Lego. Yeah, our bin doesn't look like that, hon.
And it won't. So
I mean, that'd be really fun. But I don't have a room to devote to Lego.
So my week was good. How was your week, Brooke?
I did what you did.
Yep.
That's my update.
Although you painted more snakes than I did.
I did paint more snakes. Hot snakes.
Oh gosh.
That's a deep cut. Right? It's not in the episode.
I don't know what it's from. I just know it from us saying it. What's it from?
No, it's Andy Dwyer. It's a what's it called when they don't make the show but they're laughing?
Oh, like a blooper.
Thank you. A blooper.
Hot snakes.
Right. He's talking about going to the bathroom.
He's talking about pooping, yeah.
He's talking about pooping and like kind of like the diarrhea vibe. And he's like, ooh, I gotta go. Hot snakes.
I totally just thought that was something we just said in our family.
I think we got it from that. But anyway.
So we've been going heavy on integrated notes.
Yeah.
Which I think they're some of our best episodes we've done. And
sure. I think so too.
Okay.
But I just love, I don't know. Your confidence made me chuckle.
Like, it was too much?
No. It was just like, not where I thought you were going.
Anyways.
Sorry.
So we're going to shift focus. I was just trying to set you up.
Thank you. We're done with the notes though, right?
Brooke's going to talk.
We're done with the notes, right?
Yeah, we're done.
We're done with integrated.
Yeah. So
we did it.
We did it. And
I've really enjoyed stretching it out.
From the vibe I got from people messaging or comments or on the community pages, people also enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I will lay down a challenge right now.
Oh.
I would love for the Walk in Love podcast to grow. I'd love for our community to grow. I'd love for listenership to grow. Listenership?
Listeners? Listenership.
Yeah. Viewership.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
Viewership is a word.
Listenership to grow.
Yeah.
So I would love for each one of you listening to tell a friend about the podcast. That's my challenge.
I love that.
Okay. So what are we going to talk about today, Brooke?
So the HOMEJOY e-course, which I taught once live, just to kind of test it all out, see how it went. And now I'm recording it for anybody to have at any time and to listen to and do that kind of thing. Probably
looking at a mid-May release date.
We'll see. There's several different modules, like sections of the course.
Yep.
Today, we're only going to go over like a section of one of those sections. Wow. I'm a little afraid my iPad is going to die. Do we have a cord of any kind?
Yeah, I'll go grab one.
Okay. I'm only at 6%. Sorry. I hadn't noticed. I I sort of feel like I wound it into the drawer downstairs. Maybe. Thank you. I was like, we're going to die midway through these notes when I can go over here. I don't even have the monitor. It's down on the guest bed. Are we all twisted? Okay.
Action.
All right, ready? All right, charger has been attained. Right. So we're going to start kind of towards the beginning of the course, because I feel like so much of when we talk, we meaning like culture, both in and out of church culture, I'll say either. Whenever we talk about our homes and everything, I feel like we focus a lot on either housekeeping things, like very practical, how to do your laundry 4 times
hacks,
faster.
yeah.
Yes, like all these hacks, which are great. I love hacks, and I'm not like poo-pooing on them. I'm just saying that I feel like that's kind of like if a
hot snakes on the hacks.
No hot snakes on the hacks. Okay. Oh gosh. What? But it's like, I feel like if I'm in a group, typically, maybe in the past, I think now I would maybe speak up, but in the past, if I was like in a group of moms who were feeling overwhelmed, stressed out, burnout, like they can't get dinner on the table, blah, 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 all the things, I feel like it's so often approached from like, well, just work a little harder and that's okay. Like, I feel like no one gives real advice sometimes. I feel like, and maybe that's because nobody has any advice to give. Maybe we're all as like swirly and scared as the other mom. But I think,
or there's like a fear if you give advice, you'll be like, oh, she's the know-it-all.
Yeah.
So, there's stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So so some of it I'm going to share here was one of the most pivotal points in viewing my home and my house. So like separately, like my home, meaning like all that's included in my home, like not just my physical house, but like the people in my home, the food in my home, our relationships, the spiritual element, like all of that to me is
places to gather
in a home. Kind of stuff, yes. Yeah. And then a house is like, oh, let's take care of our house and make sure it doesn't fall apart. Like a literal structure. So would you say, T, that as a guy, you wish that you were like more productive or could get more done?
Almost always.
Yeah. So that's not exclusive to women.
No.
But do you feel it in a work sense where I might feel it more in a home sense? Like I never get enough done.
I would say I feel it in like how can I describe this?
Or more big picture.
Like I really wish, like there's this, I don't even think it was in the real movie. I don't think I ever saw this movie. I think it's just from the trailer, the breakup with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer
I think
Aniston.
I've seen that.
I don't think I've ever seen the movie, but in the trailer, she says,
"Oh yes."
She's like, he's like, I don't want to do I'll do the dishes, and he's like, I don't want you to do the dishes. I want you to want to do the dishes. And he's like, why would I want to do the dishes? And I think sometimes the way I want to be more productive is I want to do some of the stuff that would benefit my life.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to. Like I want to eat as super clean and healthy as
whatever.
To be as lean and muscular as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But do I? But queso, and so, or like I want to read every book because the guys that read every book are like usually really smart and, educated, but I also like playing video games.
Right.
And so I think my desire to be productive is often tangled in this, like, I think there's this projected version of productivity that I want to subscribe to that I don't necessarily naturally gravitate towards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
I mean, there's always work productivity. Like, I wish our sales would increase. I wish like there's goals like that I long for and want to work towards. But I think when I think about being more productive, it's often it's more of like a shame. Like, why aren't you doing these things? This is how you could be more productive. And I think I think there's some healthy shame there. That's like, you don't want to just be a lazy couch potato, never doing anything. But I think that there's some unhealthy shame there when it's like, you don't even allow yourself to like enjoy the things that you enjoy.
Right.
Because obviously God created me and I enjoy certain things.
Yes.
And so why would I necessarily ignore those things in the name of only being productive?
Well, just getting more done. Being the only focus and all.
Yeah, because like we've seen, culturally that men who do that tend to ignore their wives, ignore their kids. Yeah. And, and so I don't want that version of productivity.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I had like just a more like well-rounded version of productivity. Like, I love reading and I love eating healthy and I love I actually am gravitating towards those things.
Yeah.
I don't think that's as natural to me. So I have to work at that. So I can sometimes feel some shame over that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very normal for us as humans to want to be productive. Like that it's actually quite biblical, but like that is a normal feeling. And so I don't think the shame around all of it is necessarily like, I mean, I think sadly that is normal for a lot of people, but I'm not saying that is the part that should be there. But yeah, so productivity in and of itself is not a bad thing. And I think for moms specifically, who is mostly who I'm teaching this class to, I think anybody could take the class, but most of my examples are more mom related. But productivity is actually a really awesome, helpful, guiding like principle and mindset when we view it from this like biblical perspective that I don't feel like is being how many times have we said this in the last like 10 weeks? I don't feel like this is being talked about. And that's not like a every church ever is terrible type statement, but because there's so many things to talk about.
A lot of current church is so focused on this phrase that drives me crazy. Doing life together.
Yeah, I knew that's what you were going to say.
I think that they've ignored how to live life because they're so focused on the community aspect of life, which again has value and is important, all this stuff. Yeah. But they're not like, it's like, last week we talked about an outline for life. I mean, I've seen your guys' messages. I've seen your comments. Some of you are like, I think we're going to move because of that episode.
Right.
And that's crazy.
Yeah.
And like church, I think has played it so safe. Western church plays it so safe that doing life together is about as bold as they can get. And again, not all churches, but quite a few. And so we don't have outlines for life. We don't have outlines for our home. We're not looking to what is the law of first mentions in the Bible of productivity, of household, of all these things. Yeah. Who is the archetype for the household, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And so we end up going to church our whole lives, and then it's similar to like the education system. Like you go to school for 12 years of your life. Yeah. And then you don't know how to balance your budget. Right. You don't even know what a budget is. Mm-hmm. But Pythagorean theorem,
Do we though?
Do we? Yeah.
Because I have no idea what that is.
So I definitely just hesitated on the name of it.
Pythagorean theorem.
You go to church your whole life and you don't know what the trajectory of your family should be. And so it's like, those are very similar. Yes. And so when we say it feels like no one's talking about this, it felt like no one was giving us this information while we were growing up. Exactly. In like a large gathering area. Right. Like our parents were teaching this by default because we were becoming who they are. Right. And we're teaching and there's some of that exists. And I think in a lot of ways our parents did a good job at that kind of stuff. Yeah. But from like a spiritual leader, pastor, teacher, I don't think there's a lot of this that happens. And so it's why we want to do this event because we want your minds to be blown. Yeah. And I don't say it like, oh, look at us. We're the ones talking about it, like pat on the back. But because we're only talking about it because other people have talked about it and I've read stuff and listened to stuff and dove into stuff and been like, I've journaled about it. And I'm like, scooping in all these thoughts of all these things to be like, how
I'm going to say the word should, but like, how should this change how I live in my home now that I have this information? So
can I just, I feel like to clarify what we mean when we say no one's talking about this, because obviously the people
are talking about it.
No one is talking. We haven't had an ongoing conversation about it. We haven't been learning and correcting and tinkering and learning and correcting and tinkering. And it hasn't been taught from maybe a church standpoint because
generation from generation to generation.
And so we've kind of lost some of this stuff in the shuffle, and we are learning what productivity is. We can either choose to learn what it is from culture, which is very toxic.
I'm going to get into all that.
Or we can choose to learn it from the Word of God, which is truth. And so I think by default, because the Word of God isn't taught as kind of adamantly full force as it sometimes should be, culture has seeped over into church language
100%
quite a bit. And so so when we say no one's teaching about it, we don't mean that.
I don't mean it literally. Of course there are people. That's where some of my notes came from, because I was reading books about it.
It's not as easily accessible as it should be. Like this should,
as I would hope it would be.
Like topics like this, and like we talked about last week, and multi-generational family and family teams and rhythms, like that should be commonplace in church culture. And it's
that would be life-changing for so many people.
And so,
okay. Yeah. Well, I feel like speaking in really broad terms about productivity, especially in the faith space, I feel like it's sort of two camps. It's like, I'm going to hustle, I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to grind it out, but I'm going to do it for Jesus. Like, and you're like, oh, okay. Is that right? I don't know. Or it's like hey man, Jesus walked slow. I'm going to walk slow. And I'm like, that's great. But I got to feed my family at 4:30 tonight. So like, what? And so, I mean, again, broad terms, broad brush.
Most people are probably somewhere in between those two.
But it's like when you talk about it and you're like, I don't know, I feel like I just need to be more productive. Somebody's like, hustle hard all the way.
5,000 ways I can help you do
or
that.
they're like, no.
Just calm down.
Calm down.
Oh, man. You want to get a little strong?
Hot snakes. No, just kidding. So I do feel like there's this middle ground, or not even middle ground, but just there's this redefining of productivity, and then like walking into that and living that out. So as believers, our motivation behind our productivity matters. Like whether we've ever really acknowledged it or not. Like it's productivity is, sorry, I got jumped ahead. We either want to be productive to serve ourselves or to serve God. Right. And so it's really essential to be discerning of like where we're at on that journey. I don't think we're always one way all the time.
No, unfortunately.
I would love to be one way all the time, but like that it's hard. But I will say that I'm able to re-divert much faster.
Yeah, and as you flex those muscles over and over again,
yes,
you'll learn to do that even better and quicker and all those things.
Yeah. And so, God has called us to be good stewards, which I just love that phrase. I love thinking about picturing myself as such. And the church does talk about stewardship, but almost only with money.
Yeah.
Very rarely, or as you're saying, as common knowledge, is it talked about in like our whole lives. Yeah. It's just be a good steward with your money and do this, this, and this.
And so treasures, time.
Right. And so if God has called us to be good stewards of the lives He's entrusted to us, purchased through Jesus, it's with this perspective that like personal productivity, my productivity in my day is no longer about merely like maximizing my time and my own like life experiences and just getting more done. Instead, productivity it's serving as a set of tools that we use to fulfill the purpose that God has given us, which we always love talking about things in terms of tools. Like,
say that again.
Language, all that stuff. Productivity serves as a set of tools. So I'm going to get into all that. So we need to ask ourselves, which I think you and I do a pretty good job of coming back to this kind of stuff. Like, how do I best invest my years, my months, my hours, my minutes to make the greatest like return for Jesus? You know, I do think we ask. I think we have our weekly meetings. I think we talk about that kind of stuff quite a bit, especially with the influence of something like integrated. I feel like before that, we definitely didn't talk about it nearly as much.
I mean, even when you just say it, I'm now like sort of like, oh yeah, that matters. You know, like it's
right.
It's something that if it's not at the forefront of your mind, you will just go into like, I mean, the power of habit talks about this, like, there are deep grooves within your brain that you default to in flight, fight, or freeze mentality.
Or fawn.
Fawn. And so if you're not actively trying to pursue other habits and constantly think about them or be reminded of them or practice them, you'll default to these things. And so like, I think most people's default is like, I'm not thinking about that.
Right.
I'm not thinking about, is my productivity to glorify the living God?
Yeah. And not in like my good works earn me salvation. Not that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just like God gave us productivity as a tool and we're going to use it to glorify him.
I mean, even if you look at Eden, like Adam was productive in Eden. It wasn't like God's perfect space for humanity is not a space where humanity doesn't do work.
Correct.
And so it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I ask that question, or when we are asked that question, like, how do I best invest my time in all these different ways? I feel like often we get hung up on like, we turn it into like, okay, so then how do I invest my time the best? And how am I also better than so-and-so? Like, how do I out meal plan that mom? And how do I have better cupcakes in the school line? Like you start to get.
I mean, in our school, you do have the best cupcakes.
Thank you. Yes. I think we as humans, we so quickly turn things into competition. Like, well, if I'm going to engage, then I'm going to be the best. And sometimes we're competing with ourselves. Like, I will raise my hand very high for that being me. But like at the end of the day, at the end of our life, it's about making the most of what the Lord has given us and being a good steward of that in our homes, in our time, in our marriage, in everything, not just in our money. And we're not in a race against anybody else. Sometimes I have to put on these, like, in a good way, blinders sometimes to what other moms are doing in their home. Cause I'm just like, I don't have the same kids. I don't have the same husband. I don't have the same house. Like my stuff. I
don't have the same amount of money,
right.
Like
I don't know if they have hot snakes or not. So I'm just going to like, I need not in like I don't want outside opinion or I don't seek help. I don't mean I'm not talking about a wall. I'm talking about a blinder for a period of time sometimes so that I can like head down, do what's best for my family and really think about it.
Honestly,
and be intentional about
so
it.
You can have
that's true. Yes. Yeah. So my head is yes, that's very, very true.
Yeah.
But like all we need to worry about is being faithful. And that is easier said than done.
Absolutely.
But productivity for you listening or me, like I was just saying, it's not going to look the same for everybody. And that's because the Lord has given us different things.
Different talents.
Different
amounts.
Literally in the Bible. Yeah. Like there's all about that. So I think throughout the course, I have all these like mindset shifts that have been really helpful to me. And I call them that, like call them out and write them out. And so the first one here is the mindset shift of instead of just trying to get more done so we feel better, that's me, we need to see ourselves as stewards, right? Because if I think about everything in my home and everything on my list and everything, all the places that I'm stewarding for God's glory, I'm in a very different posture than like, I have to get this done so that I feel better on my insides.
Yeah.
Like I feel way different.
Right.
And my home is going to feel really different. So for a steward, productivity it just means being faithful with what you've been given. And so let's insert my favorite question, which is, okay, well, what does that look like? What does stewardship look like? And I really believe that productivity is life stewardship. Because like you were saying, you didn't make the garden and then everybody just sat around all the time.
Yeah.
Like we are made to work and cultivate and grow and have dominion over. And like, they're all like very active words that we're supposed to be doing. We're not just like, and here we are. doing nothing. But again, the culture of productivity is like hustle, 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 get it all done, no matter what it takes.
Yeah.
Trample over people, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, I literally, it's in my notes right here. Like, I think it's easy to look at big time productivity gurus, girl bosses, moms out there crushing it, and think we have to do it their way or only view it their way as successful. Mm-hmm. But I would challenge us to remember that if they aren't believers, their goals are not the same as ours.
Yeah.
And that gets real tricky on the internet when we have access to so many wonderful people doing great things.
Right.
And that's not to say that like their system or their routine or their hack for getting out the door faster with 4 kids or, you know, whatever is bad. I'm sure it's not. But if we aren't careful, we'll find ourselves adopting more than just their hack to get out the door.
Yeah. We'll start adopting their look on life, which is productivity in the name of success, fame, clout, money, you know, followers.
Jinx.
And so, we have to be aware of that, because if I read all the best self-help books, all these books are going to lead me down a path.
Right. It's going to lead you down the path of whatever the author
thinks is the best way to help yourself.
Yes. And that's not to say you can't cherry pick a few things out and be like, this is great. This is great. But if they're not Christians
and they're not leading you down the path to glorify the Lord with your productivity, with your money, with your whatever, you could be led, you could end up living years of your life.
Yes.
I don't think I mean, some people will be led astray from they'll walk away from their faith.
Right. That's kind of a thing. But it's more just like you end up in that
just like 10 years go by and you look back and you're like, did I do anything? Was I living like as heartily for Jesus as I wanted to? No. Yeah. Why is that? Oh, like it was because
I thought all these other things mattered and were my purpose because of what I'd read. Yes. And so I don't
that's pretty convicting when you think about all the and it's not even just like books, but like all the like short vertical videos that you watch that
all
are
the
just
gurus out there
that are just talking about like health or fitness or finance or whatever. And you're just like, you're implementing and you're taking in and you're like, oh, now I guess I'm going to do cold plunges or whatever. And I'm not saying those things are bad.
Correct.
Although cold plunge
it is pretty awful. I think the results are pretty great,
but you know, then all of a sudden, like you get in you can just be led down it's almost like a mindset. Your mindset can shift in the bad way.
Yes.
Or not even in a bad way. Take your eyes
off of Jesus a little bit.
Because I don't think it's a sinful way.
Correct.
I think it's just like it's sort of like an apathy way, a laziness way, a not activated way. You end up becoming like it's like, you know, if like, let's use like a Sunday school, like we're all in the army of God.
Okay.
You know, and we all have our, you know, armor on. Like you start kind of just being sidetracked by some of these other purposes. Mm-hmm. It's like you're not out of the army. You're still a follower of Jesus. You still love him, but probably don't have a sword anymore.
Right.
You're not a threat.
Right.
You're not someone to...
You're not fighting back the darkness, I don't think.
Not as well as you could be if you keep recalibrating to be like, is my productivity on track to glorify?
But you're nailing it. You're heading in the direction of so many people...
I didn't take the course.
Wow. I'll get you a code.
Thanks.
Get you a discount. Use the code Brooke Mousetis for a discount. TJ, just for you. Still full price. Sorry. We need the money. No, I'm kidding. But I do feel like so many people, because they don't, even believers, because they're not honed in on and super clear on their purpose in life. I'm not saying their calling. I think we confuse the two. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying specific gifts or callings, but like our purpose as believers, we start to go, well, I don't really know exactly what it is. So like, maybe I'll find it through like being really productive, or I'll find it through these different things. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to just get more done. I want to go where Christ would have me go.
Say that again.
I don't want to just get more done. I want to go where Christ would have me go. I want to steward all that the Lord has given me for his glory and not mine. Now, is that on the like super, super, super forefront of my mind every moment of every day? Like, no, it's kind of just there and in the subconscious. But if I'm reminding myself of that and thinking about that and praying about that and talking about that with people, it absolutely is more on the surface than
Spending
ever before.
Time in the Word, like, all those things.
So I think that productivity flows from purpose. Like, because if you don't know your purpose, you start to be like, well, I know I'm supposed to get stuff done in my house and with my kids. But it's like, for what purpose? So I came up with this example, and I feel like it kind of helps be like, oh yeah, that is why we need a purpose. So like, let's say you're volunteering for something like a bake sale. You're on the committee. Yeah. Love classic bake sale. You're on the committee with a handful of other people, and someone said, like, there's like a leader, right? Who's like, okay, somebody needs to gather all the ingredients. Some of you'll need to bake the items. Some of you need to like gather some recipes. Someone needs to call the park and make sure we can set up and tear down. Somebody needs to find a tent, and they're just like tossing out all these things that need to happen. And then they're like, go team. And you go home and you're like, no specific job was assigned to me. Like, am I supposed to be baking something? Was I supposed to be buying ingredients? Like, it's like, you kind of know what the team's trying to do, but it's not a very effective committee of bake sale people or believers if we're like, what is my purpose? Right. And so it's a silly example, but I think that it's really helpful. And so our purpose, hands down, full stop, is to bring glory to God. Like, glory is the goal. And I think most people, myself included, at times for many years, we spend our lives trying to figure out our purpose. But as believers, like, we already know what ours is. Because again, I think we confuse purpose with like gifts or calling or things like that.
Interests,
that kind of stuff, that's different. Yeah. But like, there's this like, come up a level, like come up more towards the 10,000 feet. And like, it's glory is the goal. And so if that's the goal up here, anything else that trickles down to that is pointing back towards glory, you're good. Like that, like if that's what I'm trying to do in my home, which is what we're talking about in HOMEJOY, and I'll get into all that. Like, I'll share my meal plan stuff, and I'll share all this like practical stuff. But if none of it is made to glorify God so that I can bring him glory, be more present with my family, be more intentional, then like, what's the point of a meal planning hack? You know, it's just to make me feel better then, instead of like
glory to yourself.
Exactly. And it's like, we don't really think about it like that because that feels kind of intense, but like, that really is what it is.
But if we did think about it like that, I think we would honestly be further along. It would be sanctifying to us. It would reveal sort of the dark areas of our heart. Like, oh, this productivity that I do, this is for me. Yeah. And so like, Lord, I need you to take that. I need you to write that. I need you to, take that heart of stone and make it a heart of flesh, so that even this point where like, I know this is for me, becomes something for you. Because that's what Jesus does to us. He changes our lives, and he takes all the things that we did for ourselves, and he gives us a greater purpose, a higher calling, a more beautiful vision for life. Yeah. And it's, life to the full. It's in servitude to him. And it doesn't take long till we're doing some of that stuff again. Yeah. To just make ourselves feel good or glorify ourselves. And so, that's really, really good. Yeah. So if glory is the goal, and again, all this matters because as Christians, we're believers living with our family, hopefully trying to be multi-generational and doing all the things that we're talking about. But it's like, what are we all pointing towards, so that then it suddenly does matter that I have a better way to do laundry because of all the ways that it helps me bring glory to Jesus in other ways. And so it's like, if glory is the goal, that should really change how we approach our lives and our family and our homes. So Reagan Rose actually wrote a book called Redeeming Productivity, which is a great read if you're interested. It's kind of a deep dive, and it's not really about your home at all, but I think there was a lot of tie-ins. And so I love this quote from his book where he says that most people spend their whole lives wandering the grocery store aisles of life, wondering, why am I here? Which, first of all, the grocery store aisles of life, like, great phrase.
Just like that. You're kind of, you don't know. You're just like, oh, I'll put this in my cart. Like, you have no plan, whatever. So wandering the grocery store aisles of life, wondering, why am I here? What's my purpose? Many don't have a plan because they don't know why they're here. But Christians have a straightforward, no nonsense target drawn with bold lines and bright colors. You are here to glorify God. And having this clear purpose is an amazing gift from God. And my favorite part, Christians have the privilege of purpose. Don't waste it. Right?
Yeah.
It'll get you. Because I'm like, one, it gets me because I agree wholeheartedly.
Yep.
And then there's a part that's like a little bit convicting. I'm like, man, how much of life
have I squandered in those aisles?
Have I wandered? And the whole time, you know, like, and that's not a shame thing. That's like, not like you should have known, Brooke, when you were younger. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And like, life is a process and all those things. But like, man, when I read that, I was like, man, we do have the privilege of purpose. And I don't want to waste it when I raise my kids, in my marriage, like, and all those things. So favorite question, what does it look like, right? What does it look like? They're like, that sounds great. I want to glorify God, but like in my home and in all the ways, but like how do I do that?
What do I do with my hands?
What do I do with my hands? So we're almost done. So glorifying God with this part, glorifying God is, you know, honoring him and regarding him as worthy of praise. Like that posture, right? You start there. And then you can also glorify him with what we do, physically, what we do. And then there's the third layer of like through word, deed, attitude, both publicly and privately, which I'm like, yes, if I did all those things, like that absolutely would be glorifying. And that's like, it's like that. It's like a nice framework, kind of like we've been talking about. Like there are these outlines, these frameworks of like, yes, okay, I can get out of my own head and stop wondering is what I'm doing enough?
Read those three.
Because it's not really about enough anymore, right? Glorifying God is regarding him as worthy of praise.
Which is like your heart. That's like a posture.
Yes, it's like your posture. Yeah. And then glorifying him with what we do, our actual actions.
Hands and feet.
Right. And then
that's why Jesus is such a amazing. I mean, obviously he's amazing for a lot of reasons, but there's a physical man.
Yes.
As a living example.
Yeah.
On how to do that.
Yeah. And then through word and attitude, both publicly and privately. Yeah. And so I don't want to waste the privilege of purpose. I love that I have a purpose. And in the last, I'd say maybe 6 months, I have felt such clarity, especially as I've really worked on this course, like such clarity around that. And not like, oh, I was so confused by my purpose. It was unclear which path to take, but like more just like, I feel all this other stuff has kind of fallen away as I've been like, there it is. Ding, ding, ding. Yep. That is the words. That's the language. That's the framework I was looking for. So bringing it all back around to productivity, you know, which is life stewardship, like what you do is not your purpose. It's how you fulfill your ultimate purpose. And when I think about that, cause I'm, you know, I'll speak for myself, like 3 kids, homeschooling in a relatively new house in a new state. Like, you know, we moved not even 2 years ago. Like there's just a lot, like we're in it. We're in the thick of young kids. We don't even know if we're done. And so like, I don't think we're out of it anytime soon.
Right.
And so it can be so easy for me, and I'm guessing for maybe you listening, to put all of your purpose in what you do and get done every day in your home.
Yeah.
Or at your work or whatever. But I'm
100%.
assuming most moms are maybe home or home most of the time, or I don't know. Even if you're not, it doesn't matter. Like to be like, okay, if I can just feel better and have some peace. I can just
do 2 loads of laundry, get dinner on the table.
Right. And I'm not saying don't do those things, but like,
that's not your ultimate purpose.
That is not your ultimate purpose here. Your ultimate purpose here is to bring glory to God. And then what you do can bring him glory, but we need to not flip them.
And we do flip them a lot.
Yeah. So.
And it would almost be helpful, like if you're a to-do list writer on paper, which I am, to like write at the top of it, bring God glory. Like that, you know, that.
If that was at the top every single time.
Yeah. You would have a different perspective on all the little boxes you need to check off.
Yes.
Big time. You'd probably add different things.
Yes.
Like, because so much of mine is
more on my mind of like, could maybe reach out to that person, or I could
or go on a walk with Daisy, or
yes.
go on a walk with Sunny, or,
yes.
ride the loop a few times, or,
yeah.
Hold my wife's hand, or, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll stop there for today. We'll jump back into it next week.
A verse that popped into my mind as you were kind of just preaching, honestly, is Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ.
Yeah.
That's 3:23 and 24.
Yeah. And I also think there's an element, and maybe it's kind of unspoken, but as moms, when I hear like work hard for the Lord, I'll speak for myself. I hear like, oh, like work. Like I'm at a job, work hard. Like, okay, so if I go to like a real job, I'm going to work hard. Or it's like cleaning something real intensely, like in it working, instead of like work meaning what you do and all that you do.
Yeah.
Work hard for the Lord. Not just like these two extremes of like going to work or like a physical task that's really difficult.
Like a mission trip task.
Right. Like, it's like, oh, okay. So it's not one of those two things. Like I don't picture working hard for the Lord being aiming to get up before my kids so that I can move my body and work out and eat good foods and then homeschool and be present and off my phone. Like I don't always like connect those two, and they really are. So next week, if we're going to keep jumping into this, which I would love to, like we're going to talk about what it looks like to be productive. And this is probably my next favorite part, maybe of the whole class.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
The whole class is good, but I didn't take it.
To be productive as a follower of Jesus. Yeah.
I've obviously talked to you about it, but it will be available. So that's another way you can support the podcast.
Yeah.
But well done, Brooke. That was awesome. And it was so nice not to
talk the whole time.
Be the one talking the whole time.
I know. I was like, oh, sorry, where's another week of integrated notes? I feel like you're going to talk the whole time. Should I read the sponsor or something?
But thank you for sharing that. And thank you, listeners, for making us a part of your week. Remember to tell someone about the Walk in Love podcast. We'll see you next week. Okay, I love you. Bye.